Welcome to the Dominance Academy, where we specialize in revitalizing manhood and leadership. Our approach focuses on developing men to lead with strength and passion, enriching their lives and their families. We provide practical solutions and expert guidance in the realms of sexual education and the mysteries behind polarity and structured power dynamics. Join us at thedominanceacademy.com and restore harmony to your home while rediscovering the joy of a fulfilling masculine presence. It's time to step into your role as a leader and as a man. And now, the host of the show, Mr. Justin.
What's going on? What's going on? Good evening. Good evening. Hope everyone's doing all right. I know that I am, because it's a wonderful day being a man. So I was having some good conversations so far this week, reconnecting with older clients, and and it's interesting to just see how they've changed and how I've changed. And you know, it's all about the growth process. It's all about transitioning and continuously being in a transitionary state. You know, and as you do this, your foundation just becomes stronger and stronger. And it's just great to connect with guys. And you know, after, what was it with this dude? Maybe a year and a half passed with this guy. So it was good to catch up and see where he's at. And things have improved for him. And yeah, it's all just good stuff going around. So yeah, I hope everybody's doing well, and you know, you're doing your thing, working hard. I just want to make sure my audio is all set. Yep. All right. So we got the right audio. Very good. Very good. So tonight's topic is about unattractive qualities in men. And you hear it, I guess, depending on your environment, but you hear it from men. You hear other men telling other men what's unattractive. And I guess I'm doing that here, but I'm coming at it from the position of women. What women find to be unattractive. And oftentimes, like, guys get caught up in thinking, well, just trapped by their own thoughts. And of course, if you're a younger dude, you're going to be thinking that you have to be tall, you have to be good looking, you have to be, have some social status and be somewhat famous to a certain degree. You have to have a lot of money. And while these things are great, you know, if you're working on these things in your life, that's great. But it doesn't necessarily make you attractive. You know, and then there's traits that make you unattractive. So you could have all of these things. And if you've got some of these things that I'm going to talk about tonight, it will drive down your perceived value. And then the woman has to decide if she wants to fuck with you, if she is just going to not mess with you at all. And, you know, and you know, every woman's different. Some women are very much into it, what they can get out of things. And they'll be like, you know, all right, so he's good looking, he's got money, you know, he's got a yacht, but he's lacking these other qualities. So I'm not really going to like him, but he's all right enough to be around, and I'll just stick with this until it gets old, or until I've, you know, exhausted my patience for this sort of thing. And, you know, because you think that if you've got all these external things that, you know, women will be drawn to you. And that's true, right? Women are drawn to stuff. They like the sparkly things of life. Okay. But that doesn't necessarily keep them, even if they're there. Okay. Let me repeat that. It doesn't necessarily keep the woman, even if she's physically present. So a woman could be physically present and stay there, and but she's not present in her heart. She's not present in her mind. She's not addicted emotionally to that guy. And he will often have to keep spiking her emotions with more external things. He'll have to take her on another trip and another trip and another trip. And, because after she's been on your yacht a dozen times, it's just your boat, Like every fantastic thing will lose its luster because that's just what we do. We become accustomed to things. We adapt. Like I mentioned in another show, like let's say one of your goals is to have a really nice SUV or a really nice sports car. At some point, that vehicle is just going to be your regular driver. It's not going to make your heart sing the way it did the first week that you had it. Okay? And that's just the way things go. It's like I love my motorcycle dearly, but it's not going to be like the first time I swung my leg over it. Not at all. Okay? So that's just how it goes. So the same thing will happen with her and all of your stuff, with your fame and your money and even your good looks. They all become regular. They become the daily. And then, maybe your friend might be like, oh my gosh, your husband's so handsome. Your boyfriend's so handsome. And she's like, yeah, that's my guy. Right? Because she's just used to the way you look. Okay? So, but what doesn't get old? What doesn't get old are her emotions. Like, a woman can watch a scary movie and still get scared. Maybe not the same exact movie, but she can continuously watch scary movies and get scared. She can continuously watch love stories and her heart will still flutter. She can watch, comedians or comedies and still be brought to laughter. She can continuously listen to certain types of music and be brought into sadness or get amped or, a loving state again and again. So it's the emotional states that, even if they're repeated, don't get old. And this is where guys really fail. They fail in being able to engage a woman's emotions. And you guys have been fooled, unfortunately, or misunderstood the request. All right. So the request was that, you hear this often where a woman will say, I wish that we could connect more emotionally. And then there's other social pressures out there saying, you guys should be more emotive. You should be more connected to your emotions. And I would say some of you, or a lot of you, took that as, I'm going to be more emotive with my woman. I'm going to be more emotional. All right. And being more emotional doesn't necessarily mean you have the skill and the credentials to engage her emotions. Okay, we forget sometimes that women are very, very much narcissistic. So when they're talking about wanting, emotions from you, what she's really saying is she wants to feel more of her own feelings. She wants to get that high, that rise, whatever it is. And they might disagree with me on the surface, okay? But they love all of the emotions. They love fear. They love anxiety. They love happiness. They love joy. They love impatience. They love anger. They love frustration. They love happiness. They love all of the emotions. Because I think if you were to say, okay, I'm going to snap my fingers and you're never going to experience the feeling of anger ever again, I don't think any woman, well, maybe a few, but the vast majority of women would not take me up on that. They really wouldn't, because it's the variety and the roundedness of their emotional experience that they really like. And when they're with a guy who's a dud in this area and he does the same shit over and over and he's routine based, we're like this, we can wear like the same outfit every single day and for the most part and not really give a shit. Like it's no big deal. There's guys who wear the same freaking suit. They wear the same suit every single day. All they do is just change their tie. Merlin, how does a man tap into a woman's emotional mental side? Well, first of all, I just want to say salute to the guys in here who are posting in the chat. Uncle Guns, King Ken, I see you. J98, Merlin said it. And for the rest of you who are watching here on the live, I appreciate you. If you find value in this show, please head on over to the website, dominancecademy.com, and scroll down to the bottom and, check out my wares. And if you have any questions, if anybody has any questions, email me at justin@thedominancecademy.com. So to answer your question, I'll be getting into that a little bit because it doesn't start with the how. Okay. It starts with the who. And I know that sounds cliche, but it absolutely is the truth. Okay. So I think I mentioned this. All right. If I posted a reel like yesterday or today or something like that kind of touched on this about a program. All right. And I've had guys coming to me saying, okay, I've heard that you can help guys design their program, which I can. And then I say, well, we first need to understand who is going to be running it. Okay. Because it isn't enough to create a program if the guy who's designed it isn't equipped enough to run it. Okay. So you can design all kinds of great shit. It doesn't mean that you're skilled and equipped to deal with it, that you can operate it successfully. So you can create this awesome resume and not be able to reach any of the things on said resume. You can't match the things that are on the resume. So I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to help guys create a program and then they're not able to do it. Because that's bad business. That looks bad for me. If I'm just out here charging dudes money and then not really, really getting to the core of the issue. Okay. And, I make a lot of analogies to racing, because I like motorcycle racing, and it's like, fuck, I would love to be able to be on a MotoGP track, right? And someone could give me a MotoGP bike and say, okay, go. It does not mean that I'm going to be clocking the times that these guys are, because I'm not them. I'm not the guy who should be on that bike. You see what I'm saying? Like one of my mentors, he was actually a business mentor, and he's told me a similar thing. And he's like, Justin, if I were to hand you the keys to a Fortune 500 company, do you think you'd be able to run it so it would stay alive and profit? And I'm like, probably not. I'd probably drive that thing into the ground because there's so much in it, both on the technical side and the mentality side, that I would drive it into the ground. Okay. So when you're asking, how does a man tap into a woman's emotional mental side? This really comes down to the man part. How does the man part comes first. Then it doesn't matter what he's doing. In this instance, it's tapping into a woman's emotional mental side. There's a whole other bunch of things that you could do, but the man part has to be solved and sorted out first. Okay. And that's primarily what we do at the Academy. We first start out looking at you before we can get into anything that's constructive or productive, creative, anything that's truly fun, because you're more guaranteed success if you're solid on the person who's doing it. Then it doesn't matter what you do because you're solid. The person who's doing it is very solid and grounded. Okay. So let's look into what not to do, and the traits that are unattractive. Because these things that I'm going to discuss, they affect your mentality. They affect your self-concept. Let me rephrase that. They are a result of a screwed up self-concept. They're the result of just a messed up personality, a messed up mind. And if you want to take it that far, a messed up spirit. And this is really why guys fall flat. Because anything that comes out of that, it's just going to be fucked up, right? It's like if you've got like a jug of milk that has spoiled. It doesn't matter if you make pancakes with it, the pancakes are going to be fucked. You make a cake with it, the cake is going to be fucked. You make a bowl of cereal, the cereal is going to be fucked. Okay? I could give you the best recipe in the world for the world's best cake. You use spoiled milk, it's going to be awful. You're going to have to play it off like, oh, it's supposed to be that way. Try telling that to a woman. Marilyn said, so first we have to break down and understand the man before start implementing anything else. Yeah, you have to understand yourself. You have to break down yourself. You have to understand your beliefs, your perceptions. You have to first know what they are, what your beliefs and perceptions are, and then be able to hold them up to the light to see if they're transparent or if they're opaque. And then understand where you got these from, because a lot of our beliefs and perceptions about ourselves we adopted from other sources over time when we were young. And that ultimately has a domino effect in our behavior, in the things that we do. So it's like you guys come into here looking for, like how to get the girl, you will get the girl. That's a non-issue. Like I can't sit here and tell you these little tricks, right? Go off to, the wing girl, I forget what her name, Marnie something or other, she doesn't give a fuck. She knows. I think maybe you guys are probably familiar with her. She's this lady. She's like a coach for men around dating and things of that nature. And her presence is great, but she just gives you the candy that you want, without really explaining what the real medicine is. But she knows because she's a woman. Okay. All right. So let's get into this. Let's get into some of these traits. Now, this is not an exhaustive list at all. But these are some pretty, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 really important ones. And then I decided to go onto ChatGPT and I just typed it in. I said, what are unattractive qualities in a man? And it was really interesting to see the 10 things that it came up with. And we'll go through with that and I'll explain why I find it to be interesting. So, all right. So the first one here is being indecisive. A man who is indecisive makes a woman feel uncomfortable. The thing is, though, is that this is probably one of the most important aspects, one of the most important things that makes you unattractive. It makes you so unattractive because being indecisive makes you feel wishy-washy and amorphous and flowy, just like a go with the flow kind of guy. And this is linked to not knowing what you want, not being like steadfast in your decision making. You're not willing to take risks. You're not willing to stand on your word. There's so many things that come with being indecisive. Lacking of trust in the self. And so all of these things, a woman will either consciously, but probably more so unconsciously, internalize these things. But she will notice that you're indecisive on a regular basis. And this will say things to her in feeling format, right? It's not like she's sitting there thinking about this like, I wonder how his indecisiveness really breaks down in my mind. Like, what is it about that I don't like? Okay, what does it mean to me? What does it say about his character? They're not doing this. They're not doing this in an in an intellectual way. All right. It's just all processed through like different veins emotionally. And like those different veins go to Like, can I trust this guy? Is he firm with his beliefs? Is he, sticking to his guns? Does he trust himself? And these are all like the different veins, but it's in an emotional state. It's an emotional place. All right. And she'll feel this, and it's a terrible feeling. It's like you kids call it the ick. All right. The ick gets them, and it comes from this emotional place. So when you're indecisive, you're telling her so much about yourself. If you go out and say you're going to get a meal, and you sit down, and she's like, "Oh, what are we having?" And you're like, whatever you want to have." You're going out to a movie, or you're sitting at home watching a movie. What do you want to watch? Whatever you want. It doesn't matter. Or she's like, "Baby, what do you want for dinner?" And you're like, just cook something. It's fine. I don't know. I'm cool with whatever. What do you want to do this weekend? I don't know. We'll figure something out. Let's just do whatever. This is a massive turnoff to women. They like knowing that you know from your own preferences, from your own desires. You know what you want. So when she's like, "What do you want to watch tonight?" You say, "That movie. I want to see that movie or that movie." And, you could play a game, they flip a coin or whatever. But in the end, you're making the decision of what it is that you want to see, what it is you want to eat, what it is you want to do over the weekend. All right. And here's the thing also, an indecisive person cannot plan. Right? Because to make plans, you have to decide on what's going to happen in the future. So indecisive men cannot plan. And women are not super turned on by men who don't make any plans, because then she's like, well, again, from an emotional place, she's interpreting this emotionally. How is he going to plan me? Are we just going to sit around and like just look at each other all day? Are we just going to sit around and have sex? Like, is that all we're going to do? Okay. Now, of course, you just want to smash, like, whatever, that's what you want to do. And of course, if you're decisive about it, you're able to just make that statement and plan and just say, "Hey, this is what we're going to do every week." And that's fine. That's totally fine, but be decisive about it. Okay. And she may not like it. That's the thing. Indecisive guys are also very much aware of other people. They're very much aware of how people might take decisions. Okay, because once you stand on something, once you claim a position, okay, and you say, "I believe this, I want this, I see this, I heard that," and you stand on certain positions, from that position, you're also inviting pushback. You're inviting the opposite. Okay, you're grounding something, and you're setting roots. And now there's the potential to invite in something or someone who doesn't agree with you, who doesn't agree with what you saw or what you believe or what you stand on. Excuse me. And so to protect themselves, they just stay flowy. They just stay, open to everything. They don't really have anything to stand on, because it's a survival mechanism. You can never be put out, and you just kind of like, "Oh yeah, I'll go with that," or "I'll go with that. I'll go with that." All right. Being decisive also has the ability to say no. An indecisive person cannot say no. And while a lot of women may not tell you this, but they want to be told no sometimes. They want to know that their man can say no to them and deny them something that they want. This is really important, that you have this ability to deny a girl something that she wants to experience. or something that she wants to consume or whatever. No, we're not doing that. And even if she asks politely, Daddy, can we go to the museum this weekend? Can we go to the movies this weekend? No, we're not going to the movies this weekend. Why not? Because I said so. I don't feel like going to the movies. Oh. If you want to pout, go into the other room and pout. It's not allowed. Go pout in the corner. So being indecisive is massively unattractive. Massively. You come off just overall soft, squishy, malleable. Okay? So be decisive. The next one on here is being closed-minded. Man, women just in general are open-minded. Okay? Generally speaking, women are open-minded. I would say they're more open-minded than men are. Okay? You don't want to be closed-minded. And this is another sort of thing that women find attractive, is that men who enjoy life. They enjoy the things of life, and they're not such a stick in the mud. Okay? And that's a term from my time, but it's just somebody who's too stubborn. They're stubborn and boring. Like, their stubbornness makes them boring. They don't want to consider anything else. They don't want to consider a different viewpoint. They don't want to consider another perspective. They don't, like someone who's closed-minded probably doesn't read much because they don't want to absorb the ideas of other people. So being closed-minded is also basically telling her, I'm closed to you as well. I'm not interested really in anything that you have going on. So you're closing yourself off. Closed, like anything that's closed, is not inviting to a woman. So if you've got a closed heart, a closed mind, a closed body, if you're just defensive in that way, this is going to be a turnoff. Now, I'm not suggesting that you're open to everything that she is interested in or that she wants to do, but because being open is just being open. It doesn't mean you're grasping at everything that comes your way. No, not at all. It's just being open to think, open to consider, and having this type of minds that is, that just considers stuff. This is, it's pretty basic, but you'd be surprised at how closed-minded guys are. They don't want to be adventurous, okay? Women love adventure because of the feeling that adventure creates, all right? Now, this could be a psychological adventure. This could be an emotional adventure. This could be a physical adventure. Women love them all. They love the feelings that come from adventure, the excitement, the anticipation, the mystery, the wonder, the potential danger, all of it. They love all the shit. Okay? You cannot be adventurous and closed-minded at the same time. And this ties in with the next trait that is supremely unattractive in men, is being judgmental. So being judgmental goes hand in hand with being closed-minded, all right? Because you can't be open-minded and judgy at the same time, okay? So usually when someone's closed-minded, they're fixed in their own beliefs, they're fixed in their own perceptions, and they don't budge on anything. They like what I like, and then that's it, okay? And then they judge other things. And what this says to her on an emotional level, what this says to her is, he's going to judge me. She'll watch how you're judgmental of, other people, other situations, and like you've got some kind of chip on your shoulder about certain things. And then if she hears it from you, or if she even feels it from you, and this can be, there's just like a glint in your eye or a micro expression on your face, which women are very well adept at picking up on. they will sense these things, like from a story she tells, okay? Or she mentions something about herself, or God forbid, she tells you something sexual that she's interested in, or something that she's done. I know how you guys are, get up in your panties about that shit. When she gets the sensation that you're judging her, she's going to clam up. She's going to be a fucking tight sphincter. That's what's going to happen to her mind. That's what's going to happen to her body and her emotions. And then you're not going to have a full, you're not going to have a full experience with her. And you're going to think, this woman's cold. This woman's being a bitch. This woman is no good. All right? Because, she's not opening up to you. And my goodness, like, you're so handsome and you got so much money and, you're famous on Instagram. So why the hell is she acting like this? Well, it's because you're fucking judgy. She was about to open up to you and you said something that she interpreted as judgment, and boom, she closes down. And it's going to be near impossible to open that up again. And I've experienced this on purpose. I've told you guys about some of the times that I was dating and I would purposely throw a wrench in the works just to prove these things to myself so they're no longer concepts. I would actually blow things up as I was in them. Yeah, I'll blow up a couple of my situations. And one of them was with judgment. And so I allowed her to tell me about some of her sexual experiences, and I judged them. I can't remember exactly what I had said, but I knew I was on the plan to judge. And the next time we were together, she was less sexually open. She was definitely closed off energetically, definitely closed off. And so I just had to prove it to myself. If you're like this this type of person and you like to experiment with your life, you can test these things out. Don't take my word for it. But I can guarantee you women do not like being judged, and they don't like seeing her man being very judgmental. Okay. All right. So the fourth one on here is being insecure. It's something that's not easily taken care of. It's funny. Dealing with insecurity at first feels like an arduous task. Like you've got this mountain in front of you that you're trying to push over. And it feels impossible. And the funny thing about dealing with your insecurities is that once you deal with them, you realize it was just a little light switch the entire time. And you're like, fuck, really? That's all I had to do with my mind was just go flip and it's gone. And seriously, that's all it is. And the reason being is that it's just an activity of your mind. That's all it is. And all activities of the mind weigh exactly the same, which is zero. They're just thoughts. So your thought that has something to do with insecurity is just as inconsequential as the thought of the color of a stop sign. They're the same in terms of structure, weight. You only place more importance on it based on certain beliefs. But if you remove your beliefs, they're the exact same thing. It's just a thought. And so when you get to the other side, you kind of feel foolish because you're like, fuck, I spent all this time being insecure when all I had to do just flip that switch and it's done. So, but when you do have insecurities and your woman can feel this from you, or you're dumb enough to tell her about them, you're really going to turn her off. And this is closely linked with trust, because you cannot be insecure and trustworthy at the same time. And trustworthiness is one of the most sought after qualities that a woman looks for in a man. And I'm sure that this has something to do with her, her genetic conditioning over, generations of humanity, because it probably ties in with her primal innate drive to, find a mate that isn't going to destroy her offspring, that isn't just going to kill them or leave them in the woods to die. I think there's something in there, like why women are so drawn towards trustworthiness. And because if you're not trustworthy, it makes them feel unsettled. And you don't have to have a woman trust you. You don't. But for the majority of you guys out there who would like to be in just solid relationships, it's of the highest importance that a woman trusts you. And like I said, you cannot be trustworthy if you're full of insecurities. If you doubt yourself, how is she going to not doubt you? Right? Like if I'm running a business and I make bicycles. Let's say I'm running a business and I make custom bicycles, but I don't believe in what I do. I think that what I'm making is shit, that I can't believe that I'm even doing what I'm doing. They're probably going to fall apart. And I'm making this known to my customers in one way or another. Either they're just picking up on my vibe, or they're like, hey, you don't, oh man, Justin, I hear you're making bicycles. I want to come by and check out your stuff. And you're like, I don't know. I don't know if you should. I don't know if my bikes are any good. They'll be like, oh, okay. All right. I guess I'll pass. Right. Like they're not going to trust you. All right. And so you really cannot be insecure about yourself if you want your woman to be secure in you. So you have to be secure in yourself. This means having no doubt. It means not doubting yourself. It means trusting yourself. Okay? It's super important. Super important that you trust yourself. Let's see what we got here. Uncle Gun says, hoping you state insecurities as one on the list. I hope you cover males who complain as well. Yeah, complaining it's not on the list, but yeah, I'll throw that in there. Complaining is an awful trait. I mean, basically anything that you think a child would do, anything that a child would do that you're doing as a man is going to be a massive, massive turnoff. Okay. So, like what are kids? Kids are insecure. They're loud. They basically operate on their ego. They operate from their ego in almost all cases. They're not open-minded, right? They're like when they get to a certain age, they're like so fixed in their mind, right? You can't tell them shit. Before that, they're very open and like, oh my God, look at the whole world. Like this place is awesome. Yeah. I love that age. It's like 3 years old, something like that. But yeah, like just anything that a child would behave in, you definitely don't want to be any of that. So yes, being that way, being someone who complains about shit, man, because what that's going to say to her is, I'm not satisfied. I can't fix my problems. Woe is me. I need a hero. Nothing's good enough. And what that says to her is he looking for me to save him? Am I not good enough? Well, like is he going to complain about me? And this really doesn't, this is going to keep her on edge in a bad way. All right. This is not the same of keeping her on edge as having a certain standard expectation of behavior and her not being, or her being afraid of being able to meet that standard. All right. This is a different feeling than complaining, right? Because complaining is not guiding. Complaining isn't setting expectations. Complaining isn't solving any problems. It's just bitching about shit. You're whining. You're like they don't want to be around a man who is just down. Like I said, yes, women love all emotions, but she doesn't want to be with a man who's down in it, and he just think life sucks and everything's a problem. Everything's not good enough. I've been around people who are like that. Like you like friend comes in from out of town, take him to a nice restaurant, and he's criticizing everything. It's like, fuck, this place is awesome. Do you realize the reputation this place has? And you, like, just as a guest coming here and like complaining, like, what the fuck is wrong with you? It's like you're like 9 years old. But yeah, that's certainly one of them. So yeah, insecurity. You cannot be insecure. You have to absolutely trust in yourself. And if you have insecurities about some shit, work through them. Like just barrel right through your insecurities, because you cannot tiptoe your way into gently being okay with them and blah, blah, blah. You have to take action. You have to put these things into motion. And the faster you are, the more effort you put into dealing with your insecurities, the faster they will go away. Typically through exposure therapy, basically. All right. And the fifth one on here is being needy. Needy behavior. Man, like, don't get me wrong. Like, if you've got like a nice, like, submissive woman, she's going to want to take care of you in many different ways. But if you're needy for it, it kind of ruins it. It ruins her gift of caretaking. It's almost like you don't need her caretaking, which makes her want to give it to you. Kind of like in the movies, right? You've got like this hero, all right, and this woman, and gosh, I can't remember the film. Like, there's a scene in my mind. I can't remember, but like, classic scene where like the hero's out, he's done some fighting, and he's got some wounds, he's got some flesh wounds, like deep cuts, things of that nature, and he comes to her, or there's just the situation lands them together in an isolated environment, and she takes it upon herself. You're like, here, take your shirt off, right? Oh, don't worry about it. Like, it's just a flesh wound. It's just a scratch. And then she's like cleaning him up and putting stitches in the cut in his back or whatever. And, and then he's like, all right, yeah, thanks. Okay. But he doesn't need it. Like, he would just as well go on and continue doing his hero shit, right? It's when you don't need them that they feel better about giving to you. When you're needy, it's like feeding a hungry person, it's just, or like if someone, say you're like eating and there's someone sitting next to you and they're just like licking their chops, like looking at your food, like just real, you could like read it clearly on their face. They're really hoping that you'll offer them some food. And when you give it to them, it just doesn't feel like you're actually giving it to them. There's some weird, like, altered transition that's happening there, and it's not as wholesome if you were to just offer it on your own, because they're not giving you these signals of neediness. Okay, so when you're needy, it really throws women off. It takes them out of their natural state of wanting to give to you. And the thing is that, you guys, your neediness, it shows itself in such subtle ways that you really, really have to pay attention to your behavior. You really do. Because a lot of you guys are comfortable. You're used to being needy. You're very much used to being needy. And so when you're like this, you don't even bother to question your behaviors. You're just doing, you're just being the self that you've been conditioned to be and think it's normal. And it's not normal. It's abstracted. It's been conditioned, before you've even agreed to it. And so you won't even notice you being needy. You just think it's normal. And it doesn't help that, media and movies and shit like that, they kind of promote guys acting in this way. With the whole nice guy thing and, being very like pandering and, wanting to getting into the good graces of women so you can feel better about yourself, blah, blah, blah. I mentioned these things plenty enough on the channel where you guys know what I'm talking about. It's just a bad look. It's terrible, So I'll just quickly go through these. Number 1 is being indecisive. Number 2 is being closed-minded. Number 3 is being judgmental. Number 4 is being insecure. And number 5 is being needy. And, as Uncle Guns put in there, is being a complainer. So six character flaws that make you really, really unattractive. So consider those and challenge yourself. If you have any of these problems, challenge yourself to rid yourself of them, because they don't help you and they're not going to help your relationships. Not at all. Not one bit. So let's take a look at this Chat GPT. I thought this was kind of interesting. Now, if you've played with Chat GPT, you know that it's very PC. Really, really PC. So you're not gonna learn any game from ChatGPT. So let's look at them. I just wrote, what are the most unattractive qualities in a man? And it says, unattractive qualities in a man can vary based on personal preferences, but some common traits that are generally considered unattractive include: Number 1, arrogance. And then they go on to define briefly. So arrogance, excessive pride, or an overly high opinion of oneself can be off-putting. And I read that, and it's really funny because ChatGPT is saying this is unattractive, yet that's not the real world experience. Okay? Arrogance is appreciated. Now, of course, there is a tipping point where it's so arrogant that you're now abrasive. Okay, that's when it's it's turned into something distasteful. Okay, so you don't want to be abrasive, but being arrogant is actually attractive, because being arrogant is opposite of indecisive. All right. It's opposite of being insecure. It's opposite of being needy. Right? It's full of having a high opinion of oneself. Now, having a high opinion of oneself does not mean in comparison to others. Okay? So being arrogant doesn't necessarily mean that you think you're better than other people. You just think you are great. And there's nothing wrong with thinking that you're great. All right, number 2, dishonesty. Lying or being deceitful undermines trust and integrity. Yes, this would have been on my list as well. All right, being dishonest is not a character trait that should be, it's not a character trait that should be in your, list of integrity, right? It should not be in your codes or, your principles. Right? It should be the opposite of telling the truth. And whereas many women won't like the truth, they respect the truth. They would much rather you tell them something that they don't want to hear, but is true, versus telling them a lie. They really don't like lies. They really, really don't. Right? Because it says, yes, the lie will hurt, but what hurts more is what they learn about your character from that lying. And that's the shitty part. And then it's like, well, why is he lying to me? Especially if it's like something really small. Like, what's up with that? Like, am I his mother? Right? So it like pulls into question like many things when you're dishonest. All right, number 3, it says here selfishness. Prioritizing one's own needs and desires without considering others can be seen as inconsiderate. And to a degree, I disagree. Like, I think it's important to be selfish. I think you need to consider yourself first, putting your own needs and desires first before considering others, not without considering others, and saying just before. All right. So it's like mindful selfishness. Okay. Because you cannot guide and lead if you're putting yourself last. It doesn't make sense. If you're going to lead, you're first. Like, literally, the leader is first. So one must be first in all capacities, which means taking care of one's own needs and desires first. Okay. And if you were to come across a woman who is, good for your program, then you can consider their needs and desires. Okay. And of course, if you know how to tap into a woman's emotions, then this is going to be a lot easier. All right, number 4 here says lack of empathy. Being able to understand or relate to others' emotions and experiences can create disconnect in relationships. I disagree. I don't think that you need empathy. I just think you need intelligence. I think you need intelligence enough to understand that someone's processing something difficult, or they're sharing something with you, and you're actively listening. But I don't think that requires you being empathic. You don't have to feel in order to understand, right? So empathy is saying here being able to understand or relate to others' emotions. And I don't think you need to relate in order to understand. Understanding just requires understanding. It requires intelligence and an open mind. Number 5 here says negativity. Constantly focusing on the negative aspects of situations or people can be draining. This is kind of like what Gunn said. Gunn's said complaining. So I would put this with negativity. You've been around people who are like that. I have. It just sucks being around somebody who's so negative all the time. It's terrible. And I just, when I'm around guys who are like this, I'm just like, man, I pity the woman who's with you, who has to listen to that drivel all day long. It's a downer. Like, who wants to be with a fucking downer? All right. Don't hang out with depressed people. Don't hang out with negative people. Number 6 here, granted, these I was looking more for qualities and characteristics, but this mentions poor hygiene. Neglecting personal grooming and cleanliness can be a turn on. That's an obvious, all right? I'm thinking more in terms of behavior characteristics. But, Chat GPT, you have to be a little more specific. I just said qualities. But anyways, moving on. Number 7, controlling behavior. Trying to dominate or manipulate others can feel stifling and unhealthy. Well, we at the Dominance Academy would disagree. Granted, it has to come from the right guy. All right. So it's almost like that thing where like incels who want to pick on women. They say, oh man, like they give up that example. What is it? Where, about catcalling. Okay. And say she's walking down the street. She's looking really good. And this this old, grimy, unattractive guy says like, hey, nice dress. Right. And she's like, ew, get away from me. Right. And then a young, handsome, good-looking guy says, hey, nice dress. And she's, oh, thank you. Thank you so much. And so happy to hear that. So it's kind of like that. All right. So it comes down to like who's doing the dominating. Okay, so it's not like women love domination just like out of the bag, doesn't matter who's serving it. Right, it's not like that. It has to come from the right guy. But when it's coming from the right guy, they absolutely love domination. They love having a controlling guy. Now, of course, just like arrogance, that has a tipping point. Okay. Now, like I know of this one lady. She's actually an acquaintance of my girlfriend, and I think she just got married, or her boyfriend or whatever is super, super controlling, like super controlling. Like he needs to know where she is all the time. Within like an hour, he calls her like 3 times. No joke. Like she was telling me a story of like when she was in Florida, like visiting with, with her friend and another girl. And she was saying like, yeah, her boyfriend would call her multiple times a day. And she's like always excusing herself to go talk with him and all this stuff. And I was just like, fuck, like, is that insecurity? Is it just a desire for control? Is it a kink of his? Like, is he worried or about something? I would love to hear the conversations. Of course I wasn't there. I'm not going to hear the conversations, but there is a tipping point when it comes to control, but every woman's different. And so I brought up that story to illustrate that that she had no problem with this. She was like, oh yeah, like that's just how he expresses his love, or, it's no big deal. Like, I don't mind it. Right? It's like she had no problem whatsoever with him calling her multiple times within an hour to like check in on her and see what she's doing. What is she doing? Who is she with? Like all that shit. Okay. She had no problem with it. And others definitely will. Okay. But to say that just, off rip, that controlling, dominating behavior is seen as, unpleasant and manipulative is just untrue. There's tons of women who love to be dominated. It just has to be by the right guy. All right, number 8, this is what I put in here, closed-mindedness. Refusing to consider different perspectives or being unwilling to learn can hinder growth and the connection. So I didn't mention that, but, the part about learning, but that's a fantastic point. Closed-minded people, well, I guess I mentioned it with the reading, but closed-minded people don't learn. They're stupid, or they're at their level of knowledge forever. Or it's very, very slow that they add new knowledge. Open-minded people consider stuff, and they actually learn more. They learn better, and then they can filter. They can filter what they want and don't want, or what's useful and what's not useful. Okay. Number 9 here, lack of ambition. Right. That's pretty obvious. A lack of drive or motivation can be uninspiring. And the fact that ChatGPT used the word uninspiring is interesting, because women like to be around men who inspire them. Okay, because inspiration is part of leadership as well. You want to inspire your woman to follow you, much in the same way that before a football game, the coach will give the players a pep talk in the locker room before heading out on the field. All right. The lieutenant or the sergeant will give his platoon a pep talk before, jumping out of the helicopter or jumping out of the airplane into the enemy territory. Like, you have to be inspiring as part of leader, right? To be an effective leader. Now, you don't have to be inspiring all the time, but this has to be one of your tools that you know how to use. And, to the list here, if you have no ambition, you're just kind of content. You're content with what's going on. It's going to be a bit of a turnoff, right? Like it's a lack of movement. And I know a lot of guys can get stuck in a lack of movement. They're like, yep, I got my job. I got my favorite chair. I got my video games. I got my snacks. That's all I need. And I could just do this every single day. Go to work, come home, take a shower, play video games, snack, go to sleep, go to work, come home, take a shower. Like, they could just do this all day long, or all week long, all month long, all year long, and just make no progress whatsoever, because they just don't have any ambition. Now, it doesn't mean that you need to go out there and conquer the entire fucking world. That's not what ambition is, all right? Ambition has many different shapes and sizes. It's just a strong desire to change something about yourself. That's all it is. So number 10 here is what I had said, insecurity. Constantly seeking validation or being overly needy can be exhausting for those around them, because insecurity is an energy suck. Women don't want to be your battery, all right, for you to siphon energy from, okay? They actually want to be the siphoner. They want you to be the battery. And you are, when you become the one who is ambitious, who's a bit arrogant, who's positive, and is able to tap into her varied emotions and can bring her different places. Like, that all requires energy, all of those things. Okay. And, and the woman wants to, she wants to be near these things, right? She wants to siphon some of that energy just by being around you and communicating with you. Now, of course, it goes even deeper when you're being intimate and, you're getting into deeper psychological states and emotional states. Like, it gets very powerful, right? With what you can do as a, sort of like a battery. Okay. I'm not saying that so that you can be used by women. Okay. You need to be able to protect your energy and only dole it out to those who are deserving. But a battery you will be nonetheless. But the thing is, though, is that when you have self-respect, you have self-love, you're taking care of yourself, you don't run out of energy. You don't run out of these things, right? You're constantly regenerating and supplying it with yourself, okay? And you can do that because you're not needy. You don't need anything from her, okay? Just gifts to her. Yes. What'd you say here? Mantis lazuli. Reminds me of a type of blue stone. Lapis lazuli, something like that. But anyways, in today's world, if you're not a bit selfish, you just get trampled on by most partners. Yeah, especially if you call them partners. Just call it man or woman, right? Because partners believe in egalitarianism, right? Partners, we're equals, right? I don't know if you're a man or a woman. I'm guessing you're a man. Say you're a woman. Don't say by your partner. All right, we don't do partners. Your partner is a business associate or one of your tight friends. Okay, that's my partner. I don't know where this is from. Describing empathy, yes, but I was just describing empathy. Let's see here. Jay says, men are supposed to take action to solve any problem. Women are the only ones that can complain to a certain degree. Yeah, to a certain degree. In my relationship, I don't allow complaining. I don't see it as a useful thing to do. All right. Now, she is allowed to have her opinion. She is allowed to bring things to my attention that she does not like. All right. But complaining is a whole other vibe that's just not allowed. It's not productive, right? It's like feeling guilt. Like, guilt is like one of the most worthless emotions. Okay. Shame. Like, these things don't really do much. Okay. And complaining is right up there with them. Complaining just is worthless. All right. But no, I don't let that shit fly in my relationship. No complaining. None. What's up, Shepard? Good to see you here, buddy. Because when she has no openings, she is full. I don't really know what that's in relation to. So if you guys have a comment, just try to make it like a complete phrasing, because I don't know when this is from. She has no openings. She is full. Yeah, I don't know. I'm thinking of sexual. So, when she has openings, she can be filled. All three. But yeah, so that's what I was thinking about for you guys. Just unattractive qualities, and unfortunately, guys got it wrong. They think about unattractive qualities like with relation to women. And yes, we're talking about with relation to women, but all the things that I brought up, yes, women are looking at these things and being like, "Oh man, that's unattractive." But it's really unattractive to yourself. It really should be. Okay? Like if you're complaining about shit, you should be able to recognize your own behavior, be able to step back and understand that you're being unattractive to yourself. If you're closed-minded, if you're full of judgment, if you're indecisive, if you're needy, if you're insecure, like all of this stuff, this is going to hopefully make you unattractive to yourself. And the only way you can get to that is if you build in the ability to step back from yourself. You have to learn the skill of self-auditing. This is really at the heart of coaching, right? This is what basically all that we do is we audit you. We are auditors. And because a lot of people just don't have the capacity, the will, or the insight to audit themselves. Now, that's not to say it's impossible. It's entirely possible. It's absolutely impossible. I've done tons of auditing on myself. That's just how things go, right? Because I can't be a leader for others if I'm not doing what I'm telling them to do, right? That would be hypocritical. All right. So it's important that you learn to audit yourself and be able to step back from your own behaviors, your own beliefs, your own perceptions, and look at them objectively and say to yourself, is this helpful? Is this good for me? Is this bringing me closer to where I want to be? All right. Because it's in those difficult conversations you have with yourself is what brings you to where you need to be. And part of that is facing discomfort. Like that's one of the things that men just need to embrace. You need to embrace discomfort. It has to be your best friend. And if you notice yourself getting too comfortable, you're probably doing life wrong. You're probably doing life wrong as a man. Like, I don't want to be comfortable ever, even after I retire, right? Because this is limitless. There's always a level. There's always more to go into. There's always another level to climb up onto, or a layer to go deeper down into, my personal cave. And it's not easy. It's not easy to be this self-reflective, okay? But the thing is, though, is that this is what allows you to become an effective leader in your relationships. Because, there's many philosophers and religions and, things that say this, that when you know yourself, you know others. So you can't just sit back and analyze other people before really getting to know yourself, because you cannot lead that way. All right, there's this old famous story about this. I think it was Gandhi or a Buddha or something like that. But this woman, let's just say it was Gandhi, and this woman takes her child to Gandhi, and she's like, Gandhi, I really need your help. my son, he won't stop eating sugar. No matter what I do, whether I punish him or give him rewards for not doing it, he just will not stop eating sugar. Please, please help him. And Gandhi looks at the kid and he goes, all right, lady, come back in 3 days and I'll have an answer for you. So she's like scratching her head and she's like, okay. Like she takes her kid, goes home. And in 3 days, she goes back to Gandhi and she's like, okay, I'm back here with my son. Can you help him? And he's like, yes, of course I can help him. And then she's like, but before you start, why did you have us come back in 3 days? And he's like, because I myself hadn't stopped eating sugar. So he had to learn himself. He had to guide himself before guiding somebody else. So women are largely filled with tons of insecurities, like especially about their looks. Okay. How are you going to lead them through a healthier relationship with themselves surrounding their appearances if you yourself are insecure? Not necessarily about your looks, but just in general. Like if you have insecurities, how can you bring her out of her insecurities if you can't bring yourself out? How are you going to teach her mindfulness if your mind is scattered? How can you teach her about honesty if you're dishonest? How can you teach her to trust you if you're indecisive? Okay? How can you teach her to open up if you're judgmental? You have to be the thing before you teach, before you guide, before you impress your will upon someone else. Now, this does not mean that you need to be perfect all around in all areas 360, 3D. You don't. Okay? But the thing you're going for better be. So if, say, you want your woman to lose some weight and she's trusting you to like make a program for her, you better not be a fat piece of shit. You better not be. You better be in shape and know what you're doing when it comes to physical health before guiding her into her physical health. Makes sense, right? Now, I'm just saying, like, you don't have to be mastered in all areas. It just means that the thing that you are trying to guide her on, that she needs help with, or she requests help with, that you better know what you're doing. You better have a certain level of example for her to know that, you know, you're trustworthy in this area. Yes, this is true. There's endless amount of knowledge in this world and an endless amount of space in your mind. There is no limit to growing. No, there isn't. It's all about you, man. It's all about you. Facts, a woman will not follow you unless she sees you know where you're going. Yes. And check this out. In order to know where you're going, you need to know where you are. Right? It's about triangulation. So I've mentioned this before. It's like, you know, if the two of us are dropped by helicopter in the middle of the woods, and I pull out a map and I say, okay, this is a map of the area. We've got 10 square miles all around us. All right. And I point at the map with my pen and say, look, see this mountain ridge right here? This is where you got to go. And I say, okay, go for it. Unless you have skill in knowing how to use the sun, in determining where you are in terms of directions and then using the key on the map. Let's just say you don't know how to do that, okay? You're not going to know where to go. You'll have no idea. You could be right next to that mountain, or it could be way on the other side of the fucking map. Okay? It's not until you know where you are on that map will you know exactly how close to that mountain you are and in which direction you need to start walking. So in order to know where you're going, you have to know where you are. And in the context of manhood, knowing where you are is knowing who you are. This is your where, right here. Here now, this is your where. It's your where is an I am. So So you have to know who you are and what you're about in order to move in a certain direction, because your decisions should be based on who you are. And this is the problem of most males. They get told who they should be, and then they get just pushed and ushered in these different directions. And then, some decades down the line, they have themselves a midlife crisis. They're like, I don't know who I am. I want to be somebody else. I want to be adventurous. I want to be free. I want this. I want that. And then they just start flipping out, and they just start, doing weird shit. Okay. And looking like a fool. Don't be that guy. Don't be that guy that wakes up to himself when he's fucking 55 years old. Okay? Don't do it. Wake up to yourself now. Start getting to know who you are now. And then plotting out a direction simply becomes a matter of choice. And it really doesn't matter where you go, because you're with you the entire time. There's that old adage that says, wherever you go, there you are. And that's all. It's a problem and a benefit at the same time, because if you're fucked up and you're trying to say to yourself, well, things will be better if I change my environment. Things will be better if I change my circumstances. Things will be better if I change my woman. Things will be better if I change my job. And you keep changing these things. You move, you change jobs, you move to a different state, you get a new girlfriend. You're still you. You take yourself to all those different places. And if you're fucked up, you're going to still feel fucked up no matter what you change in your life. Now, the plus side of that is that when you do know where or who you are, you can go anywhere and it doesn't matter. You can move to a different state. It doesn't matter. You get a new woman. It doesn't matter. You get a new job. It doesn't matter. Because the you now is understood and is constant. So that phrase can go two different ways. Okay. Let's see here. I missed this one. William Keim. Pardon me for mispronouncing your name. Online, I talk to every woman pretty much the same. 9 times out of 10 women love my direct, decisive ways. Then there are some that say I'm aggressive and too much. That's just their perception. And they're entitled to their perception, and their perception really doesn't matter. Like perceptions, just like beliefs and thoughts, they weigh the same. It's just a thought. So, someone is just as equal as someone saying, I think the other side of the moon is made of cheese. You'd be like, okay, like, what am I going to do with that? Okay, fine, whatever. And it's the same weight of a woman saying, your decisiveness is too firm. You're too aggressive. You're too much for me. Okay. That's fine. Your thought weighs as much as a ghost. It doesn't matter. It only matters when you make it matter, when you internalize these things. Okay. And the only reason why you're internalizing them is because you are trying to stay in their good graces. This is mainly why guys do all the stupid shit that they do that gets them into compromised positions. It's namely because they want to be in the good graces of women. They want to be accepted. But if you're decisive, you stand on what you know and what you believe in yourself, it really doesn't matter if they accept you or not, right? What matters most is what? That you accept you. So then you don't need their acceptance to give you this positive feedback that what you're guessing about yourself is correct and is okay. Okay? Oh shit, just realized the time. Yeah, just wishing my lady a good night. She always goes to bed at 11. But yeah, you don't need their feedback. You don't need to consider their perceptions of you. If you're fine with yourself, if you're completely fine with your self-perception, with your identity. But the thing is that just how society has worked out, guys aren't encouraged to formulate their identity. They're encouraged to just get with the fucking program, right? The program of society. Get with the fucking program. I don't care what you're thinking about this, that, and the other. Just choose Democrat or Republican, go to college, get a fucking job, get in the machine, and shut the hell up. Buy some Snickers, fill your home with some fucking IKEA, and just keep your head down. Take your vaccines, get your Netflix subscription, and shut up. Right? There's no encouragement to develop who you are. Why? Because it's too unpredictable. Because for every man that's out there, you'll have each individual personalities. And with each individual like self-concepts. And that's not predictable. That's not predictable for profits. It's not predictable for control. Right? And a man who's not controlled is the most dangerous thing on the planet. The most dangerous thing on the planet is a free-thinking man. Is a man who has a sovereign mind. This is extremely dangerous because it's unpredictable. You don't know what he's going to do. You don't know what his plans are. He's not taking the medicine. He's not drinking the fucking Kool-Aid. Okay? But the funny thing is that the more you're like this, if you are to consider, whether a woman is attracted to you or not, which you really shouldn't care, but if we're going to look at it in this context, this is extremely attractive because this is what brings about being decisive. Okay? This is what brings about being a little bit arrogant. Okay? This is what brings about having a high level of trust in oneself. Right? And she's like, "Ooh, I like that guy. I want to like eat him up. I want to eat him up. I want to be in his sphere. I want to be near him and absorb his warmth like he's his own little son." That's what they want. What's up, Kevinism7? Yeah, you're welcome to rewind. I don't take these down. Even the ones that are fucked up that, I choose the wrong setting in my microphone and the whole show sounds like I'm talking like this. But, yeah, I had a couple blunders with some things, but, whatever. Doesn't matter. All right, so I'm going to pull this one to a close. I appreciate you guys. I really do. I appreciate you guys for your support. I really don't think there's a whole lot that's, like what I'm talking about from this angle on YouTube. So I'm really looking forward to when this channel grows and I can start affecting more and more people in a positive way. So for those of you who are, going to be OGs, I appreciate you for being here from the beginning. That said, I appreciate you guys who are coming through on the replay. And if you want to learn more about what I do, go to thedominancecademy.com. Check out the coaching programs that I have available there. I have ebooks available for download. And I'm currently about a third of the way through on my new book about how to be a fantastic lover. There's going to be a lot of really good, a lot of fun stuff in that one. So that's on the docket. And like I said before in a previous thing, I'm going to be working on some tutorials, some like light BDSM tutorials for people that are going to be in, I don't know if they're going to be in the library or like as like a separate purchase. I'm not sure. They can't be too edge pushing. Okay, so it's not going to be anything crazy like how to play with fire or how to play with knives or anything like that. So, all right, I'm going to shut it down. You guys have yourself an awesome evening or early morning, wherever the hell you are. And I'll catch you on the next one. And so until then, be good to yourselves. Peace.